ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮನೇಲೆ ಇರ್ತಾರಲ್ವಾ. ಓಕೆ, 10 ನಿಮಿಷ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ವಾ? Is it audible to each and everybody?
Yes, sir. Audible.
Will we start now?
Audible, sir. Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Audible, sir.
Audible.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't matter with the number of participants, and they will join whenever the discussion is under progress. ನೀವು ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಿಲ್ಸಿ, ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ
ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ ಸರ್, ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್, ಏನ್ ತೊಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಆಯ್ತಾಯ್ತು, ನೀವು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
Welcome back to the second session. In this session, let us discuss few important points relating to the refugees. This is very, very important, and incidentally, one of your participant from Tumkur Law College, Muduraj, he did his PhD under my guidance as my first candidate also, and of course, maybe about 10 years back, he did it. And after that, there is a series of changes with respect to the status of refugees, not only in our country, but also in the entire world. The reason is that India is a third world country. It will offer protection not only to the citizen of this country, but also to the non-citizen of this country. Recently in Karnataka and elsewhere, some agitation was taken place against the continuation of Tibetans in our country. Especially this has happened even in Mysore also. And they felt that hey, when we ourselves is struggling to get the basic communities, how can we extend the facilities to the outsiders? And that was one of the important questions. And of course, the government interfered with that, tries to convince them what is the situation available at the national level and also at the international level, as the case may be. Now, there are people like, I'm just coming to that. Refugees are there, asylum seekers are there, immigrants are there, and the person subject to extradition is also there. And then intruder is also there. I'm using this particular term, intruder. Maybe all the intrusion is illegal. All the intrusion is illegal. Number one. Some economist says that, especially the classical economist says that the boundaries that is available between the states are just a misnomer. The boundaries that is available between the state is just misnomer. And they claim that after the liberalization of economy, after the globalization of economy, the states are not so serious about their respective boundaries, as the case may be, whatever it may be. And this is based upon the some of the literature that is available. For example, earlier octroi was there. Earlier octroi was there. ಕೆಲವರು ಗೊತ್ತಿರುವ octroi ಅಂತ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. Then VAT was introduced. Now it is GST and that has been introduced. Now here, refugee, why it's the most important point. It's a challenge to the every nation. It's a challenge to the every nation. Across the world, irrespective of the fact that whether it's a poor country or whether it's in a least developed country or a developing country or developed country, they receive the refugees. They receive the refugees. We say that, for example, there is a statement: birth is an accident, death is mandatory. Okay, so we don't know where and to whom we will born, and to which religion we belong, and to which race we belong, and to which ethnicity we belong, as the case may be. Because as I've already made it very clear in the previous class, religion, race, ethnicity has not been made by any individual group. It may be by virtue of a color. It may be by virtue of their faith. It may be by virtue of their practices. It may be by virtue of their rights and rituals. And as I have already made it very clear, all states are not, please make note of it, all states are not secular. All states are not secular. I made a reference to the establishment class. Number one. In England is not a secular state. Please make note of it. England is not a secular state.
Mangaleshwari, kindly mute your audio.
Okay, England is not a secular state. The church in England are known as churches of England. Please make note of it. The church in England, every church in England are known as the churches of England, whereas the same interpretation is not available in US. And very recently, there are opening of various Hindu temples. Ayyappa Swami temple agide, Chandramoleswara temple ಶುರುವಾಗಿದೆ, ಏನೇನೋ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ the government is encouraging everything. And of course, promotion is different and establishment is different, as I've already made it very clear. And the giving financial assistance is also different. Giving financial assistance is also different. So now here, it's the responsibility of the state to protect each and every religion, every caste, every race, and every ethnicity. It cannot make any discriminations on the basis of religion, race, and ethnicity. Please make note of it. That's why the term secular, sometimes we may call it as a misnomer. There is nothing like a secularism. There is nothing like a secular. And because the term secularism is obviously a matter relating to your mindset. Let me make it very clear. The term secularism obviously is a matter relating to your mindset, to which religion you belong, to which ethnicity you belong, and to which race you belong. Make a reference to the superiority complex of Adolf Hitler. Make a reference to the superiority complex of Adolf Hitler, who claims that I belongs to Aryan race. It's the purest race in the entire world. This is what actually it is said that. Please read that literature. Please read that literature. He claims that. Or for example, you may also make a reference to a book called Schindler's List. Anybody? There was also a movie called Schindler's List. There was also a movie called Schindler's List. How a owner of a particular factory saves the Jews who are working in his factory in the Germany during the Second World War. And that was the story, as the case may be. Legislation is not a detrimental factor, especially for a country like India. Especially for a detrimental. Now, even the president also. Now, for example, very recently, owing to the petition filed by the Animal Welfare Committee, the Supreme Court says that the so-called Jallikattu should be banned. What actually happened? And the similar interpretations can also be given with respect to Kambala. You know that legislation is there, or the precedent is there, where in a Jallikattu game, on the eve of a particular festival, the Jallikattu game will be there. At least there will be average death of 10% on every occasion of Jallikattu game. It is reported. 10 deaths is being reported. Nevertheless, they just wanted to go against the president. They just wanted to go against the legislation. So in the case of a Kambala, ಏನದು ಕಂಬಳ? ಕೋಣನ ಓಡಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಕೋಣನ ಓಡಿಸೋರು ಯಾರು? They belongs to depressed class. For the purpose of their pleasure, for the pleasure of a few section of the society, that sports is being actually encouraged. That's what actually it is said that. So it's a pain to that particular animal involved in Kambala or in Jallikattu. The person who involved in that particular game will also get injured. This is what actually it says that. These are all presumption. My attachment with my nations, strictly speaking, I will never forgo with my birthplace. I will never forgo with my nation. Irrespective of the fact that I may occupy, I may be enjoyed, or I may be in a very highest position, as the case may be. They will never forget their birthplace, or they will never forget their nation, as the case may be. Now, the concept of Atiti Daiva Bhava and Vasudhaivakam Kutumbam, this is very, very important, as the case may be. Since the time immemorial, let me make it very clear, since the time immemorial, India is known for its values. India is known for consideration of a guest as a god. So when a guest comes into your home, how best you can offer this service? And you must treat him as a god. But there is also one more argument. There is also one more argument. Please make note of it. This is a philosophical argument blended with the legal arguments, supported with the concept of law. Guest should come only as a guest, and the guest should remain in a particular house only for a temporary purpose. Did you get the point? If a person ಒಬ್ಬ ಅತಿಥಿ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಅತಿಥಿಯಾಗೇ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷ ಇರ್ತಾನೆ? 4 ದಿನ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, 5 ದಿನ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, 5 ತಿಂಗಳು ಇರ್ಬೋದು, 6 ತಿಂಗಳು ಇರ್ಬೋದು. But if he becomes a permanent resident of any family or any home, the nomenclature of the guest will forgo. That's what actually it is said. But anyway, Atithi Daiva Bhava, treating the guest as a god, is our culture, is our values, and that is being protected, cultivated, practiced even today. And you may consider it as a great value contributed to the entire world by the Indians. Vasudhaivakam Kutumbam, as the case may be. That means considering the entire world as one country, one family. We belongs to one family, irrespective of the fact that he belongs to a particular religion, he belongs to a particular race, a particular ethnicity, as the case may be. But as the case may be, we say that we belongs to a particular family. And we are all brother and sister. Brethren is being actually available. You can just imagine that when Pahyana visited India about 389 BC, he made it very clear through his literature. And it may be Huyen Song, who visited India in the 7th century AD, also recorded in his literature that, especially Pahyana says that in a Nalanda University, every students across the world usually come and learn various facets of education, including the Takshila. That was actually, it is known for it. And it was said that till Harshavardhana conquered that particular place, the education seems to be very free to each and every student who comes with a great aspirations. This shows that Vasudhaivakam Kutumbam, that is, the entire world is one family. When such situation is there, then how can you make it distinction, differentiation, as the case may be? I just wanted to make some interpretation of some terms. Immigrant or an immigrant, as the case may be. A person want to migrate to another country, usually for the permanent resident. It is like that. ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ IIT ಖರಗ್ಪುರ್, IIT ಮಡ್ರಾಸ್ ಇಂಥವೆಲ್ಲ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, the government is spending crores of rupees for every student. So as soon as they enter into final year, there will be campus selection by the multinational company, and they will just fly to USA, Australia, and elsewhere, as the case may be. And they will be given a good job opportunity, and ultimately they will apply for their citizenship, and they will be the permanent residency. And before that, they can be considered as a migrant. They will immigrate from one country to another country. Asylum, it's a kind of an institution for care of people. Especially earlier, it was known for physically and mental impairment. ಈಗ ಅದೇನಿಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ನಾವೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅದನ್ನ ರಾಜಾಶ್ರಯ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಅದನ್ನ. ರಾಜಾಶ್ರಯ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನಾವು. Especially this is being used for giving shelter to the so-called the great people or a political people, or some people who made their remarkable achievement in a particular field. For example, Salman Rushdie, who was the author of Midnight Children, who was also author of Satanic Verses, who was subject to death penalty imposed by the then president of Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini, as the case may be. So it is like that. So England, Australia, USA has given asylum to him. Or for example, Nawaz Sharif, or for the deceased Bhutto, they were given actually the asylum elsewhere in UK and elsewhere. Extradition, he may be fugitive. For example, Nirav Modi, Lalit Modi, Lalit Modi, Vijay Mallya. So they all actually booked under the Economic Offences Act, as the case may be. And in spite of the fact that Interpol notice has been actually given, red alert has been actually given, they could just fly to other country, as the case may be. One important aspect is that if you want to extradite any individual, let me make it very clear, if you want to extradite any individual, there should be extradition treaty between the two states, or within a good friendship with other nation, with a good friendship with the other nations, with a good faith, as the case may be, as it is done in case of Abu Salem or Bedi, Monica Bedi case, Portugal ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ that the criminals can be, or the accused can be extradited to a particular country, demanded by a particular country. This is very, very important. This is also one of the important restrictions that is available for extradition of a criminal. Now we are coming to the refugee. One who flees in search of refugees, as in time of war, communal rights, fear of genocide, etc., as the case may be. Now, definition of refugee. As I've already made it very clear in the previous session, any person or a group of person who, owing to well-founded fear of being persecuted, not prosecuted, persecuted. Persecuted means existence of fear, expectation of a fear from the authority, from the government, or from any individual, as the case may be, for the reason of a race, religion, nationality, religion membership to a particular group, or political opinion. If he is outside the country of his or her nationality and is unable, or owing to such fear, is unwilling to avail himself or himself of the protection of that country, that includes civil war or a natural calamities. This is a very broadest interpretations that is available under the Refugee Convention 1950. Please make note of it. It may be a civil war. It may be a civil war. Now, it usually happens in Sri Lanka about 30 years back. LTTE and versus government, as the case may be. Or it may be a natural calamities. There may be a continuous landslide. ಗುಡ್ಡಗಳು ಕುಸಿತಾ ಇರಬಹುದು. Or there may be a fear of insecurity because of the natural calamity, natural disaster. ಈಗ for example, it may be a particular territory is known for cloud burst. Did you get the point? Please make note of it. A particular territory is known for cloud burst. So now here, cloud burst means what? Especially northeastern eastern states in India receives cloud burst. So at a time, within 1 hour, if there is a 100 millimeter rainfall is there, it is known as cloud burst. Cloud burst. All of a sudden, everything will be collapsed. Everything will be washed away. Everything will be washed away, as the case may be. Now here, as I'm already made it very clear, secularism, the term is a misnomer. Let me make it very clear. Let me make it one important aspect. Now, for example, Myanmar. The state religion is Buddhism. Let me make it very clear. Please, state religion is Buddhism. Buddhism is known for its peace. But there is reportedly, there is an exploitation against the Muslim. Look at the things. What is actually happening? Even in case of a Sri Lanka also, the similar thing is happening. So the official religion of a state is Buddhism, but the exploitation is done against a particular community. I'm not telling that it is against the Hindus or it is against the Christianity or it is against the Tamilian, as the case may be. So it may be it's because of the egoism. It may be because of the superiority complex that I belong to particular race, that I belong to particular religion, that I belong to particular nationality, as the case may be. I am superior, and then he is inferior. Let us see that. Let us oust him. Let us take the support of the government to oust them, or let us create a fear in their minds. See, as I've already made it very clear, please make note of it. It is very, very important with respect to a person, life and the property. Life is very, very important. See, ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಇದನ್ನ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಮಾಡಿ ನೋಡಿ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಇದು actually. See, life is very, very important. Even with psychologically speaking, committing the suicide is also not so easy. In order to commit the suicide, one must be so strong. In such a circumstances, when a person or a group of individual comes to know that another person or another group of people is coming to kill me or injure me, then definitely there is a fear in my mind. There is an apprehension in my mind, as the case may be. Then naturally, what will happen? Such group of person will move to the very safest place. The very safest place that is available is next neighboring state. And such people are known as refugees. Please make note of it, as the case may be. The reason for the consultation that the person has to be outside their country. Now, for example, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು.
Mohan Das sir, kindly mute your audio. Mohan Das, kindly mute your audio.
Ibu Paul sir.
Hello, kindly mute. Right. So now, for example, what are the grounds for the consideration of a person or a group of people as a refugee? The person, one who flee from that particular country to our country, must be outside the country of origin. He may be from Bangladesh, or he may be from Afghanistan. He may be usually from a neighboring country. It's not a compulsory. Please make note of it. It is not a compulsory. We have more than 1,000 refugees from Somalia. That I'm going to give you the data, preliminary data. The second one is that the reason of their flight has to be fear of persecution. Fear of persecution. Persecution is to be well founded. That means yaradu.
Shibu Paul. Hey, Shibu Paul, kindly mute your audio. Shibu Paul. Shibu Paul, kindly mute your audio. Shibu Paul,
Yes, sir.
audio.
Yeah. So there should be, the persecution is to be well founded. If it is occurred accidentally for one time or a two time, that cannot be considered as a persecution, as the case may be. There should be continuity. There should be consistency. The fear of such persecution must haunt that particular person or that particular group of person. Then with that particular persecution or a fear of persecutions, they will just move on to the next particular country, which is nearby them, They have to unwilling or unable to seek the protection of the authority in their respective country. Now, for example, there is a fear to me with respect to my life and my property as they are to my family. I just go and ask them. This is what actually happened in case of a Tibet. This is what actually happened in case of a Tibet. When there is a problem, there is a fear of a persecution, they approach the police authority, the executive, but the executive itself actually continue to exploit the Tibetans, as the case may be. So when the authority themselves fail to protect you people from the fear or a persecution or a fear of persecutions, then there is no other reason except to move from their country to another country, as the case may be. Now, there are certain data relating to refugees. This is based upon the data, a primary data available by the United Nations High Commissioner for the Refugees. Please make note of it. United Nations High Commissioner, UNHCR. Roughly, there are more than 43 million refugees across the world. 43.7 million refugees across the world. This is the latest information. Just I am offering it to you. In India, during 2008 to 12, more than 1,84,821 refugees have reported to different high commissioner offices. That means between 2008 to 12 across the world, it is more than 1,84,821 refugees have reported to different high commissioner office. That means there is a continuity. There is a flowing of the refugees from one country to another country. It's a continuity is there. There is no stop at all, as the case may be. Maybe their nature may be there, as the case may be. But continuity will be there, consistency will be there as far as the flow of refugees, entry of refugees to the nearby country where they feel that they will be most secured in that particular place when they have compared their situation in their respective birthplace or in their respective nation, as the case may be. This is very, very important from the point of understanding. Simply, the presumption is that I cannot go to Pakistan. Simply, I cannot go to Pakistan. The Pakistan will never consider me as a refugee. Or I cannot go to Sri Lanka. The Sri Lanka will never consider me as a refugee. Only if there is a existence of fear of persecution. Only if there is an existence of fear of persecution. Or only when there is a fear of natural calamities consistently, or a natural disaster, or a civil war. ಎರಡು ಬಣಗಳ ನಡುವೆ ಈಗ ಸೊಮಾಲಿಯಾ ಇಂಥ ಕಡೆ ನಡೆದ್ರೆ ಜಗಳ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ನಡೀತಾನೆ ಇದ್ರೆ, then the innocent will be targeted. The innocent will be targeted. In order to wage the war, they will exploit the innocent. They will exploit the innocent. They will extort the innocent. This is what actually it is said that. So under that circumstances, if such things are there, man moves from one place to another place. Mobility will be there. Mobility will be there in anticipation of the security for their life and the family members' life, as the case may be. Not the population concern. In India, this is based upon, this is latest data. Yesterday only. So from the population concern, from the Myanmar, as I've already made it very clear, there is a tug of war. There is almost like a civil war based upon the religion and the ethnicity also, between the Buddhist and also with that of the Muslims. As many as on the previous years, 18,914 people have taken shelter. They have just taken shelter in India. From Afghanistan, you know that, as many as 13,381 people have taken the shelter. They have not been actually considered as a refugees, but temporarily they have been given a refugee status. Somalia, you can just imagine that. Where is Somalia? Where is India? More than 672 people have entered into Indian territory because they feel that India is a heaven, as the case may be. Now come to this. Government of India assisted concern, that is assisted refugees, Tibetans, 1,10,095 people. Sri Lankan, 64,689 people. United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee given an estimation of a budget that is required for the protection of all these people, that $15.1 million is required every year to maintain these refugee people in our country. You can just imagine that. $15.1 million is required to maintain. Because why so much of amount is required? Why so much of amount is required? You may ask a question. Hey, they may come. Let them be there, as the case may be. No, it is not like that. The Convention for the Protection of Refugee will never speaks like that. It is not like that. It insists more than that. More than that. In fact, India is not a signatory to that particular convention or to the protocol. Nevertheless, it is protecting so much of refugees. Now, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Mudraju update ಮಾಡ್ಕೋ ನೀನು, update ಮಾಡ್ಕೋ ಇದನ್ನ. There are 28 national staffs are there.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Who
sir.
are working for the refugees across India. There are 6 international staffs are working. 7 UN volunteers are also working. 20 UN Office of Project Services. This is directly sponsored by the United Nations Security Council. 20 UN Office for Project Services. This has been directly sponsored by the Security Council of the United Nations. That means totally 61 office or the staffs are working across India for the protection of the so much of refugees. So much of refugees. There are one country office is there at New Delhi. One field office is at Chennai. It is called field office. It is called field office. Field office means it's in a subsidiary to the main office, as the case may be. Now the question comes before us is that India's obligations. Why you wanted to? Why state is obliged to protect the refugees? Why you wanted to protect? Number one, they are illegal immigrants. They are illegal intruder. But if they prove that there is a fear of persecution in their country, what compels the government of India to treat them as a refugee? Please make note of it. Persecution of fear, ಹೆದರಿಕೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಇರ್ತದೆ. Not only from the people, but also from the government, as the case may be. Now, as I've already made it very clear, many peoples are there. Many peoples are there. They have come and taken the shelter as refugees. They need to register with the United Nations High Commission for the Refugees. Based upon the existence of fear of persecutions, they will, United Nations High Commissioner of Refugees will extend the protections, Protection from what? That's very, very important. Protection from the harassment by the outsiders. Protection from the harassment by the outsiders. Protection from the various kinds of exploitations from the various localites, as the case may be. As much as possible, the next one is that education must be given. And this is very, very important. As it is said that, and you may also make a reference to Article 21A by virtue of a 86th Amendment Act, where it says that, which is interlinked with that of the Article 21. Because Article 21A is the offshoot of the Article 21. Please make note of it. Article 21A is the offshoot of the Article 21. So, owing to the interpretations given by the Supreme Court in various case laws, the Parliament was under obligation to consider and ensure the free and compulsory education up to 14 years, not only for the people who are the resident of this country, but also for the refugees. They ensure health, as the case may be. There is a double profit in this. Please make note of it. This is one important aspect is that healthy children are the great asset of the nation. Please make note of it. Healthy children are the great asset of the nation. Any country for the matter. ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳುಗಳು ಅಥವಾ ಜನಗಳು ಆರೋಗ್ಯವಂತರಾಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ದೇಶದ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಆಸ್ತಿ. Because you make a reference to the Paramananda Katara versus Union of India. I'm just making a reference to various case laws. Paramananda Katara versus Union of India, where the Supreme Court says that right to health is a fundamental right. And health is and medical facilities, expectation of a medical facility is the fundamental right. And you cannot deny a treatment to the people. So instead of that, if the people are healthy from the beginning, as the case may be, it is an asset to the nation. Now here it is said that refugees are there. There are intruders are there who have registered with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. You are expected to give them. ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ COVID-19 ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅವಾಗಾಗಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಡ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. It will be spread to the entire country, as the case may be. So the community empowerment and the self-reliance must be made. So usually self-reliance, ಗುಡಿಗಾರಿಕೆಗಳು or various other the provision for earning their livelihood. Maybe as you have witnessed, for example, with the Tibetans, Now, for example, they are well known and they are very famous for actually the sweater making and various other things, as the case may be, community empowerment, or you may actually give and offer an employment opportunity elsewhere. Now, for example, ನಿಮಗೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಮೈಸೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಹೋಟೆಲ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಟಿಬೆಟಿಯನ್ಸ್. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಟಿಬೆಟಿಯನ್ಸ್. ನೀವು ಯಾವುದೇ ನಾನ್ ವೆಜಿಟೇರಿಯನ್ ಹೋಟೆಲ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ, ನನಗನ್ಸಿದ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ನಾವೇನು ಹೋಟೆಲ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಹೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದೃಶ್ಯ ಬೇರೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾನ್ ವೆಜಿಟೇರಿಯನ್ ಹೋಟೆಲ್ಸ್ಗೆ ನೀವು ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಇರೋದ್ರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಟಿಬೆಟಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಹುಡುಗರೇ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು. ಅಂಡ್ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಬೈ ವರ್ಚು ಆಫ್ an order passed by the government of India, as the case may be. And the country is expected to look for the durable solutions, a permanent solutions. These are the very instances I will give you. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. During 2002 to 2015, please make, this is a primary data I'm just offering, you can make use of it. More than 12,290 Sri Lankans have been repatriated. They have been actually sent back to their respective country. More than 1,075 Afghans have been, refugees have been actually repatriated. ಅವರ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಕಳಿಸಿಕೊಡಲಾಗಿದೆ, ನೀವು ವಾಪಸ್ಸು ಹೋಗಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ. And then the country is expected, or the government of India is expected to provide the identity papers that is a refugee and he is from that particular country. What is his blood group? What is his so various other papers or identity papers must be given, and a travel document must also be given to travel within the country, not outside the country, as the case may be. If they want to go outside, they have to take the permission from the government of India. Otherwise, it is not allowed. They cannot actually fly as they like. ಅವ್ರ ಮನಸ್ಸೋ ಇಚ್ಛೆ ಆಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಹೋಗೋದು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಹೋಗೋದು ಅದನ್ನು ಬಿಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. But in order to travel within the country, that is in India, they need to get a travel document by the government of India. The government of India is under obligation to provide it. Now the question comes before us is that, ನೋಡ್ರಿ ಮುದ್ರಾಜು, ಇದು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ? 830 Afghan refugees of Hindus and Sikh faiths have been given India's citizenship.
Yes, sir.
They are from Afghan. They are from Afghans, but they were settled there. They came as a refugee to India, but of that, more than 800 people are Hindus. 30 people are with Sikh faiths. Sikhism ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಇಟ್ಟವರು. They were actually given the citizenship by the order passed by the government of India. Actually, this is a latest development where it imposes the obligation on the part of the government, as the case may be. Right on par with the nationals. That's what actually I'm telling. They have religious matters. They have a free access to court proceedings, including the legal assistance too. Just because they belong to some other religion, the country who receives the refugee cannot compel them to be part of the religion. No, it is not. Of course, in a country like India, it is impossible because it's in a secular country, as the case may be. They can also approach the court of law. Legal assistance will be given.
ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್
ಹಲೋ,
ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದಾಗಿತ್ತು.
Sir, Babu Prasad, kindly mute your audio.
ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ. ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್.
ನಾವು ಮೆಂಟಲಿ ಫ್ರೀ ಆಗ್ತೀವಿ.
ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. Then I will give you the opportunity. So, protection to the intellectual property. Now, for example, a refugee who settled in a refugee camp, he invents something. And he writes a particular book about his experience, where all these work can be considered as an intellectual property, and the protection are to be given. As the case may be. And of course, that's what actually the Paris Convention 1883 says that. Paris Convention 1883 says that. The equal treatment by the taxing authority, they cannot be actually subject to more tax just because they are refugees. And they have been given to form their trade unions also. Of course, subject to a certain restriction, they can also form their NGOs. A right to engage in a wage earning employment, as I've already made it very clear, they can be given a free access to wage earning. Now they come to this. This is a very important point, as I've already made it very clear. Refugee Convention was facilitated in the year 1951. Refugee Convention, and there is a protocol to the Refugee Convention 1951 in the year 1967. But deliberately, India is not party to this convention. But it is fostering and nourishing more than 12 lakh refugees across the country. What may be the reasons, as the case may be? And it's in a always many innumerable articles are appearing not only in the national journal and also in the international journal. Now the India is not even today, it is not a signatories and a member to the Convention on Status of Refugees 1951 or to Protocol 1967. Because once you become a member or a signatories to the Convention on Status of Refugees 1951, automatically the protocol will be there and you can also accept it, as the case may be. One of the reasons that has been provided by then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was that if we become member or a signatories to the Convention on Status of Refugees 1951, we will be abide by the directions that could be given intermittently and regularly by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. So instead of that, we will extend all possible facilities to the refugees and we will give them, that's different matter. But we will not be the part of the Convention on Status of Refugees 1951. That's what actually it is said, that neutrality has been maintained by the government of India, and even today the similar situation is available. Nevertheless, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees office has been established, as I've already made it very clear, in New Delhi, and a few field office has also been established in Chennai, as the case may be. International law recognizes that the right to seek asylum, but does not oblige state to provide it, as the case may be. Now the question comes before us is that whether a asylum seeker can be considered as a refugee or not. It is not to be confused with these two aspects. Number one. The next one is that non-refoulement. Refoulement antandre ವಾಪಸ್ ಕಳಿಸೋದಷ್ಟೇ. Send them back, that's all. Send them back. Prohibition on the forced return of the refugees and its dilemma. Now, for example, why I use the term dilemma antandre, I will explain it. I have already given the primary data. There are 697 Somalia refugees. There are more than 13,000 refugees from Myanmar. More than 10,000 refugees from Afghanistan. More than 1 lakh refugees from Tibet. And more than 64,000 from Sri Lanka. Now the question comes before us is that whether the government of India forcibly send them back to their respective country or not. This is number one. The answer is that they can't forcibly send them back. This is nothing but non-refoulement. The second question is that in Sri Lanka, because of the civil war, more than 75,000 refugees sought shelter in the government in our country, as the case may be. And of course, a majority of them have returned it. But majority is still there are people who do not want to go back to their country, that is to Sri Lanka. And India is also under dilemma, and the government of India is unable to send them back to their respective country. This is one of the important where the international instrument obligates the respective government. Please make note of it. So there is a dilemma. So there, for example, fear of persecution is not prevailing in Sri Lanka. When the fear of persecution is not prevailed, then what made the people to continue their stay in this country? And this has not been answered yet. This is very, very important from the point of, because this will have a burden on the exchequer of the government. This will have a burden on the exchequer of the government. Then I'd say that sending the refugees back to their country, origin country, is in a very tedious matter. It's a very tedious matter. And I just wanted to refer a case that has been decided by the Honorable Supreme Court, where in the year 2000, reported in the All India Reporter. All India Reporter. Chairman Railway Board and others versus Mrs. Neelima Chandra Das. Chairman Railway Board and others versus Mrs. Neelima Chandra Das. An illegal intruder from Bangladesh. Intruder ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಯಾರು ಅಂತರ? ನುಸುಳುಕಾರರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ. ನುಸುಳುಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. Her name is Anufa. Her name is Anufa. She was an illegal intruder. She was an illegal intruder. She was waiting for the train in Howrah railway stations. In Howrah railway stations. Okay. Rail has come, but she has unfortunately entered into a RPF designated compartment. She has unfortunately entered into RPF designated compartment, where she was picked up by RPF men and she was gang raped for more than 4 days. And she was picked up from that particular compartment to elsewhere, and she was thrown away, as the case may be. Mrs. Neelima Chandra Das, who identified this particular Nufa, got admitted to hospital. After got the information from her, she filed a petition before the Supreme Court. The issues before the court was that, whether the illegal intruder to our country is entitled to get the justice or not. So here the question comes before us is that she is not a citizen of this country. She is not a citizen, she is not a person of concern. She is not a refugee. She is not a refugee. Please make note of it. And she has not been actually registered with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Artha agtidiya? Please look into that issues. She is not a refugee. She is not a citizen, but she is an illegal intruder from Bangladesh. Such Anufa, a woman was actually picked up and she was gang raped. Now, a woman headed by a NGO seeking the justice for such illegal intruder. The contention of the chairman of a railway board and others was that when she herself is not a citizen of this country, neither the refugee who registered with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees or the person of concern, how can we actually extend the protection? This was an issue which was contended before the Supreme Court by the chairman railway board. But the argument goes like this. The counsel for the petitioner, that is Nilima Chandra Das, argued that, look at the very beautiful argument. Yes, that Anupa was an illegal intruder. Illegal intruder. It does not mean that it's a green signal to commit a gang rape. That is the ratio. Please make note of it. That is the ratio. That has also become ratio. So if she is an illegal intruder, so illegal agi nusulukarara agidre, what government of India is expected to do, especially in case of a woman, they are expected to identify the illegal intruder, number one. And with a due respect, they should send them back to their respective country. And that is the duty imposed upon the government of India. Just because Anupa was an illegal intruder, it does not mean that it's a permission or a green signal to commit the gang rape. Hence, interim monetary compensation was awarded to that Anupa in this particular case. I mean to say that the justice is universal, but the issue is local. The issue is local, but the justice is universal. That means while delivering the judgment, the Honorable Supreme Court set out a landmark precedent stating that just because he's an illegal intruder, it is not a permission for the RPF men, Railway Protection Force men, to commit the gang rape. It's an inhuman act against the human beings. It is against to the violation of a human rights. It's a gross violation of a human rights. And then passed an order of an interim monetary compensation, number one. Cases have been booked against all those RPF men involved in the gang rape. And immediately they were arrested. That's different matter. And what I just wanted to tell you is that the government of India claims with a false claim, but the Supreme Court did not actually compromise with the notion of a justice. That's what actually it said. That means, irrespective of the fact that whether they are a citizen, whether they are a non-citizen, an intruder, person of a concern, person who has registered with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, nevertheless, they ought to be given protection within the territory of this country. That's what actually even the Constitution also makes it very clear. This is very, very important. That means just because few people are refugees, you cannot deny them the human rights to them. They are also entitled to get human rights. Subject to certain condition, you may actually. It does not mean that just because they are non-citizen, they are not entitled to enjoy the human rights. No. They may not take an opportunity to cast their vote in the election, and various other facilities may not be given to them, but majority of the facilities offered to the citizen of this country should also be extended to the particular refugees, which is part and parcel of human rights. Otherwise, it amounts to gross violation of human rights, the entire literature says. Thank you. I will accept few questions from your end, or you can also come out with own suggestion. Doesn't matter with that. I am not worried about the things that you should always accept my propositions. You can also contradict, and it's in a process of learning too. It's a process of learning too. Okay, you are also a learned man. Anyway, it's a kind of very good discussions, as we have already made it very clear. Please, we'll see that. Bye.
So thank you very much, sir. But a small clarification, sir. This the people who are illegally entered, who is a common people, illiterates, how can they go for the registration with the United Nations Commission? So what is the procedure they have to follow, sir?
Which one?